A lot of critically important new details out about the Blackhawk helicopter that crashed into the American Airlines flight just last night, killing approximately 67 individuals with no survivors. In this video, we'll go through some air traffic control data and some looks at approach plates and different angles of this incident. We're going to hear exactly what was going on in just the moments before the crash. We'll also talk about likely causes, as we did last night. In this video, since I'm also going to be covering financial news, I will also be talking about the disaster that was the UPS earnings release this morning, and who actually a big beneficiary seems to be of this. Hint, it's another stock. Caterpillar's not doing that great, and of course, on the channel, we did cover Tesla, Meta, and Microsoft yesterday, but we will, in honor of the DeepSeek Week drama, cover more of the DeepSeek drama. We've also got to talk about the European Central Bank and some PCE data that we got this morning. But first, at 8:47 p.m. yesterday, a flight, the American Airlines flight that we've all now unfortunately heard about, crashed. It was the American Airlines flight 5342 operated by PSA Airlines, and it is expected that absolutely everyone died. Now the question is, why did a Blackhawk helicopter with 3 crew members crash into the American Airlines flight? Well, we do now know that the helicopter flight was on a training flight and took off from around the area of Langley, Virginia, and followed the Potomac River down, which is not uncommon that a helicopter would follow either a highway or a river. In fact, it's so common that people even post videos on X showcasing helicopters flying over the river at a low level during the same time planes are taking off. Take a look at this, and then you get a little bit more perspective of the area there and what it looks like. It is an interesting sight, to say the least. Here you go. This is an example of a flight taking off, and you can see 2 what appear to be Blackhawk helicopters here, which can carry as many as about 13 crew members or individuals taking off. And you can see how shallow and marshy the Potomac is here. Well, you get ice there. It's at some levels 7 feet deep. At some levels, it's only waist deep. So thanks, Kyle, for that shot there. It's not a very deep set of water, which is also unfortunate because, well, I mean, frankly, whether it was water or not might not matter. But when you're falling out of the sky at about 350 feet, which is the elevation it appears the accident took place at, you're going straight down from a 30-story building. It is quite a drop. But what's also very important here is, why did the helicopter not maintain separation from the plane if the helicopter on air traffic control data indicated they had the plane in sight? What I'm going to do is I'm going to play for you the air traffic control data, and then I'll show you what may have been on the air traffic control screens at the time of the incident. And I want you to listen closely to these comms right here. So here's PAT, which is Priority Air Transport 25. The military is confirming that this was a training flight. They did have night vision goggles on board. It's unclear if they were being used, and that there were no senior U.S. military officials on board. This is what they say. Now, having night vision goggles, worth noting, could narrow your field of view substantially. This is just going to take you down and kind of kill your peripheral and narrow you down to only about a 40-degree view, which is a lot less than, obviously, what you would otherwise have, which isn't great because if you look at a Blackhawk helicopter, you actually have, just type in, to YouTube or whatever, Blackhawk helicopter cockpit. And you can see there's actually quite a bit of visibility that you could get out of the sides of these. I'm trying to get a good side profile picture here. This one's decent. This is just shows you some of the side windows over here. Here's another example of a side window. Here, for example, the front windows. And you even have windows, I mean, there are some controls right in the center of it here, but you have windows up to your left and up to your right as well, depending on which seat you're sitting in, which also becomes important because, mind you, if this was a training flight, then the more experienced pilot was probably on the right side, and the trainee was probably on the left side. Okay, why is that so important? Well, remember, this helicopter probably didn't see a plane descending from the left, from the trainee's side. So to me, it's more and more starting to look like this was a training accident, a failure of training. But let's go hit for a moment that air traffic control commentary we hear and glean some insights here. So PAT, Priority Air Transport 25, here's the American Airlines PSA flight. Let's listen.
Pat 25, CRJ in flight.
Okay, that was Pat 25. Do you have the CRJ in sight? Okay, that's the Bombardier model of plane here, the CRJ, I believe it was 700. Okay, let's listen to that again just so you can hear that a little more clearly.
Pat 25, CRJ in flight. Pat 25, Pathfinder CRJ.
This club has a aircraft in sight, press separation.
Okay, aircraft in sight, that's affirmative. Request visual separation. Okay, so basically the pilot is saying, hey, I got him. We're good. We're not going to crash into them. You good if we just stay visually separated? That's a way of saying, hey, air traffic control, I got him in sight. I'll handle the separation. You cool with that? That's as opposed to air traffic control saying, yo, Pat, turn, left heading XYZ to get away from that other plane. Hey, descend, climb, whatever, giving some form of collision avoidance instruction. Because the pilot captain said, hey, I've got visual separation, or are you okay if I maintain that visual separation? It's likely, here you could actually see potentially what it looked like from an air traffic point of view. But anyway, it's likely that air traffic control is like, all right, he's got him in sight. Because look at this. You got the collision advisory flashing. Alarms would be going off right now at air traffic control. This is the runway. You've got clearly them coming closer together here. I want you to see these altitudes here. The PAT at 200 looks like they're actually climbing. And then the CRJ 700 at 400 climbing, descending. And there you go. Now they're both at 300. So you've got the helicopter coming up and the plane coming down. And then if you got night vision goggles on, how the heck are they supposed to see each other? But wait a minute. Why then did the helicopter pilot say, hey, I got him in sight? Well, probably because he had the wrong plane in sight. And shout out to the individual who texted me this morning, a military pilot, who suggested much the same, that he had the wrong bird in sight. Let's look at exactly this right here. Take a look at this. This is departing traffic right here. This is our incident aircraft, right? The helicopter's going this way. What if it's possible? He's like, oh yeah, I see that plane taking off. We're good. We're so good. Why don't you let us handle the separation? Oops. Watch that again, and then I want to give you another profile view and show you the approach plate. Here's the helicopter coming in. Probably has this one in sight. Because look at this. At this level, it seems like you're so far away. Why would he be talking about that plane, right? But look how low this plane is here. It's literally just now taking off. Now, you might think that this plane is right in front of this helicopter. I actually don't think it is. I think this plane is substantially behind the field of view of the helicopter. The helicopter's looking out and to the right. Oh yeah, we got the plane in sight. No problem. Request visual separation. Oh, crap. Yeah. So what could that look like? Well, let's look at an actual plate here for a moment. This is, we'll look at that RNAV in just a moment. What you see is this. Okay, this is what you see on the video. And it's like, bro, how could you not see that plane? It's a giant white light. Okay, but wait a minute. You know what that giant white light is? That's not the position light of the plane. That's not the light of the plane that helicopter sees. Like, to us, we're like, goodness gracious, how could you miss that? Look at that giant light. But you know what those lights are? Those are the landing lights. And they only point forward. So that helicopter was not seeing those giant flashy lights. In fact, at night, let's do a position, a light, plane. This is going to be the right wing. So we're going to have a little green light. At most, I got a picture of a red one here. That would be pretty good. At most, what you're really going to see, I'll just show the red one. This is the wrong side, since the red is the left, and the helicopter would have seen the green light. But I'll just show this just so you could see it. Take a look at this. This is really more just that red light, what you would have seen. And then, of course, there's a flashing strobe as well. But the landing light is the one in the front. And so from the side, you're seeing substantially fewer lights. It's like, with the exception of the strobes that are, you know, flashing intermittently, the landing lights that you see are these. But that's, again, pointed forward. It's almost purposefully designed not to shine sideways to blind other people. Let's see. Side view aircraft at night. Should try it. Usually you could see planes pretty well at night. I personally like flying at night as a pilot because I actually find it easier to see traffic. But there are some logistics here as to why this was probably harder. And you're going to see that on this iPad drawing. Okay, so the position lights are forward. You've got the heli, which is this green line coming straight over, right? And then in the picture that we see this other plane taking off that looks like it's so much higher. It starts obviously lower. But from this angle, we can't really see what it really looks like. My assumption is it actually looks like this from a top-down view. So if you look at this top-down, you've got a helicopter slightly climbing right here, potentially even speeding up, like trying to get past the airport traffic. Hey, got him in sight? Yeah, man, we got him in sight. Air traffic control, we got him in sight. Request visual separation. They're pointing at this guy. They've got night vision goggles on, so their view is a disaster. They're probably, when they're over here and they had a chance of seeing the plane turning and coming in, it was probably substantially higher than them, which, again, I technically should be drawing from this side, right? Because the plane is coming in for a descent like this. And so it's substantially higher than them. And then you've got night vision goggles obscuring your vision. And the plane basically, as you're climbing, kind of just comes down. And almost, it's on its landing path. Worst case scenario, it's in your blind spot, basically. And almost looks like it lands on top of you. But really, it's more that the helicopter crashes into the side of it. I think it might be a little bit easier to just, again, visualize that. And then I want to show you the approach plate here. Visualize that like this. So you've got a helo. We'll make this cup will be the helicopter, okay? I don't have a helicopter model. So the plane comes in, turns in like this. Notice how the cockpit is facing away, right, in the turn, in the bank, from the helicopter. You level out, you're coming in like this. The plane is actually descending like this, and the helicopter's like, yeah, we got that plane way over there. We got that plane in sight, no problem at all. You watching that plane? You watching that plane? You watching that plane? Especially with those night vision goggles. And no guarantees that they were wearing them, but we are aware that they were on board. Now, look, something else to pay attention to here is the RNAV approach for this airport. We're going to look at that runway 33 here. So what I want you to think about here is we have an approach that comes along this river here. There's an initial approach fix. This is where you're going to start getting ready to descend and prepare for your landing. And then you have a final approach fix, after which you basically go visual. You assume that air traffic control has got you cleared, and you're going to descend through all altitudes to go land here. So there really wasn't a floor after that final approach fix, NADZ, there really wasn't a floor that the plane shouldn't go below. So you've got 1700 at NADZ. You're just trying to follow a typical slope down to the runway, typically 3 degrees of slope. So from here, there's no mandated minimum altitude. It's just follow this at a 3-degree slope, over, turn, and go land on the runway. You use the river so you could avoid this 400-foot obstacle, 440 obstacle over here, the 260 obstacle, and then you land. Of course, the helicopter, as we saw, came from over here and collided with the plane. Now, there is another angle that we could take a look at as well. That other angle is right here. We'll play that one more time right here. There you go. It's just terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. And I think this will just go down, unfortunately, as a terrible training accident. This was the flight path of the helicopter. It is possible that they did not have their ADS-B broadcasting. However, they should be showing up on radar. And I want to explain what that looks like with traffic and what I've learned as a pilot, what not to do, and I think it's very, very important. Now, first, I just want to disclose that, look, I'm a newer pilot. I've got about 150, 160 hours with about 400 landings. I'm working my instrument rating. I've got my check ride coming up for my instrument rating in a few weeks here. And one of the things that I find with trainers, just worth talking about, is that typically the way it works is the most experienced trainers end up going on to either, in my opinion, doing missions at the military, or they end up going on to, guess what, go fly at the airlines. So the point of that is you usually don't have the most experienced people training you. The downside of that is I feel like you're often getting people who get the bare minimum number of hours to be a trainer, about 250 hours, and then they're the ones training other people. So you don't usually get the most experienced people just because of the way that aviation works. And I regularly hear people tell me in training, oh, don't worry, when you're flying your final approach fix on those approach plates, like I just showed you, air traffic control is maintaining separation for you. You don't have to worry about it. And every single time I say, well, guess what? I got 7 kids and I'm worried about it. So what I have is I have an iPad, I have a phone, I have a Sentry, and obviously all of the G3000 electronics in front of me on the flight deck. And what I like to do is I like to actually ask air traffic control, hey, are you talking about XYZ tail number? So for example, if I come in for a landing, I might look at my iPad, which shows me all these little triangles. And this isn't an exact example, but let's just say that right here, these triangles you see there, 1, 2, 3 in a row, right? Let's say that I'm the third arrow on the right. I will say, or I'll usually hear from air traffic control, hey, 816, whatever, you're number 3 to land behind the Cessna that's number 2 in front of you. And I'll click on the triangle that I think they're talking about, and I'll look at it and go, say the tail number ends in PP, okay? I'll say to air traffic control, hey, air traffic control, just confirming, I'm following the number 2 with tail number PP, right? They'll confirm, affirmative. Yep, you're following blah, 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 blah. Number 2, you're number 3. Got it, I'm number 3. That's typically what I do, and I'll do that on instrument approaches as well, because I don't want any of these triangles coming anywhere close to me. Now, is it possible that the helicopter didn't even show up as a triangle? Yes, because the Blackhawks don't have to transmit the ADS-B data. Now, they will generally show up on radar, though, especially around airports. What happens is airports will pick them up on radar and then broadcast that out, and we'll pick them up. So there should have been a triangle, but nobody's trained to look at traffic on finals, so it's very unlikely that the plane was, or the pilots were trained or expected to pay attention to traffic once they were clear to land, because everybody in training always says, once you're clear to land, don't worry about it. And I'm like, I'm worried about it. And I just think that's a big failure in the aviation community. But anyway, beyond that, you've also then got a helicopter that is misidentifying which plane they're talking about, right? So this is how you end up with a disaster, a cluster F, and a lot of dead people. And it's absolutely miserable. So I'm very, very sad and saddened by this. But hopefully a lot of people can learn from this and we never end up seeing this again. Anyway. That's it for the aviation disaster. My heart goes out to the families that are affected. Apparently, a lot of younger skaters were affected, like ice skaters, training for the 2030 Olympics. Just so sad. So sad. Anyway, this morning we got some USA... I can't even speak anymore. We got some GDP numbers for Q4. They came in a little lighter than expected, 2.3 versus 2.6. Nobody cares. It's above 2%. Nobody's going to care. Initial claims were better than expected at 207 versus 225, continuing actually down. The continuing claims were down from last week where they had spiked over 1.9 for a moment. So actually a good thing. Then you've got the European Central Bank cut rates by 50 basis points. People are still cheering that Microsoft and Meta didn't lower their capex more. I think this is misguided. I've talked about it before. I'll keep talking about it. It's way too, how should I say? It's way too early to say, yeah, look, Microsoft and Meta, they haven't reduced their capex yet. This means they don't actually care about DeepSeek. And my response to this is, no, they actually do really care, and it's way too early to expect to see capex adjustments here. So that's just my take. We'll watch this. SoftBank now apparently in talks to invest 15 to 25 billion into OpenAI. It's unclear if those talks started before DeepSeek, probably. And so I don't know if they'll actually end up going through with that. But that would make them the largest investor in OpenAI, larger than Microsoft at 14 bill, though they'll have a lower stake because Microsoft got in at a lower valuation. Although after DeepSeek, that valuation probably is a lot lower. Regarding Donald Trump and tariffs, apparently, according to Bloomberg and what people are hearing on the Hill, the Trump team is still trying to, quote, figure out what to do, that new tariffs have been threatened, but they haven't arrived yet. Trump has given a deadline of February 1st for 25% in tariffs on Canada and Mexico, 60% on China. But he's already walked back the China ones after talks with Xi Jinping. And we'll see what happens on February 1st here. The Treasury Secretary Bessent is focused on a tax package. And honestly, I don't think Trump is really going to follow through with a lot of these tariffs. They mostly seem to be a negotiation tool, which is kind of exactly what everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people were talking about before he became president. So I guess we'll keep an eye on it. UPS missed revenue by 35 basis points. Their capex came in at negative 35% though versus expectations. And their deal with Amazon apparently has expectations that Amazon is going to lower volume with them for smaller parcels by up to 50% in the second half of 2026, by the second half of 2026. Who seems to be winning from this, by the way, because it's not UPS stock. They're down 14% in pre-market. It actually seems to be Walmart. Look at Walmart. It's up 76% over the last year. It's at all-time highs, literally right now. And apparently Walmart's monthly active users were up 11.7% in December, with the monthly active users just basically going straight up. You can see that on screen right here, data compiled by Sensor Tower and Goldman Sachs here. And it seems like Walmart is sort of winning that whole like trade down consumer or customer. Then you've got Caterpillar, which also missed revenue for Q4 by 3% and guided lower this Q1 than last Q1. Their stock is down 4.2%. Obviously, we've also got movement here on Tesla, still up nicely in the pre-market, still up about 4%, though it's been a little volatile in the pre-market. And yeah. So with that, let's get into the daily wealth of the day. I want to touch on a little story that I got from Jack and then the dad joke of the day. So, well, I guess it's less of a story. It's sort of more of a tip from Jack. So Jack's tips this morning were that you should not say bad words. If you do YouTube, don't say bad words so more people can watch. Also, don't say bad words in other jobs if you get mad. If you get mad, Get away from the conversation or get away from the problem. Also, respect your teachers, even if they're not perfect themselves, and always be kind and honest. Well, that was very nice, Jack. Then we've also got a dad joke of the day, which is, I told a joke on a Zoom meeting, nobody laughed. And it turns out I'm not even remotely funny.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.